everybody, Keith, East Village Wine Geek here, and I've been talking about bubbly wines. The last video I did was about the bubbly wines of Italy. What about the United States? Interesting, huh? In America, in the 1800s, people started making bubbly wine. You see, we had all these people coming from all around the world, and in California, a wine culture started to grow. And in the 1800s, there were the grapes from Champagne, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier weren't really in California yet. And people were trying to make bubbly wine from the grapes that were available at the time. And it became very popular, but it kind of stayed in this little plateau and never kind of went up. And then at some point, these grapes, the Champagne grapes that I just mentioned, were introduced into the American culture. After that happened, people started looking to Champagne and trying to not copy, but emulate that sort of style. And then we start with the American sparklers. At one time, for a long time, we called these American sparklers Champagne. The French got a little upset about this because they spent so much time, there's so many centuries, there's so much history there. They perfected something, and they wanted their name to be attached to it. And when they saw that we were doing that, and we were still kind of a fledgling place trying to make this wine, that they were like, why do you call it Champagne when it's not from Champagne? So we came up with a new term for sparkling wine in America called American Sparklers. How cool is that term? I dig it. July 4th, sparklers, American sparkler, it all makes sense. Just like anywhere else in the wine world, whether it be Europe or America or South America or anywhere else, there's always going to be somebody exploiting wine, making too much of it, depleting the quality of the wine, and mass producing it. This did happen in America. The Corbel brothers were the first to make these commercially made bubbly wines, and Corbel became very popular, and then others followed suit, and then it got kind of out of hand. But there are some people that have come to the United States, or that are from the United States, that have made really amazing bubblies that are worth talking about. The first one I want to talk about is Schramsberg. The Schramsberg estate has been around since the 1800s, and it's been owned by many people. But it's always been a wine growing and wine-making estate. At one point in the 1950s, a couple from LA came to Napa and they bought it. It was crumbling at the time. And they decided to make bubbly wine. But they were very smart about it. They wanted to make wine not just like Champagne, but wanted to make Champagne-style wine for the United States, for us to create our own style. And they succeeded. They started out doing that whole thing where they used grapes that weren't the Pinot Noir grapes, and eventually they started using the Pinot Noir, the Champagne grapes, and eventually started using the Champagne grapes. This is Schramsberg Marabelle Brut. It's a wonderful example of how American sparklers can be kind of up there with some of the best sparklers in the world. Round, smooth, clean, amazing wine. The thing is, in Napa and in California, we have more sun, we have more heat. And in Champagne, it's very cold. So we're already going to have different styles. But if you, as a winemaker, are very passionate about what you make, you can make something great no matter what the tradition is from somewhere else. Schramsberg is an amazing sparkler. Usually retails around $25-30, so it's going to be a lot less than some high-end champagnes, and people are going to totally dig it. It's good for the American holidays, you know, July 4th and Thanksgiving and stuff like that. Okay. Now, there's a lot of great bubbly happening in the United States, especially in California. I could probably list a bunch of them, but your wine merchant will know what you're asking for when you ask for a Champagne-style American sparkler. But you know, I kind of want a nicer one. You're gonna spend a little bit more, $18 to $30. Outside of California, this is so cool. Okay, outside of California, in New Mexico, that's right, New Mexico, hot desert climate New Mexico, the Gruet family from France that made Champagne in France moved to the Southwest and started planting Pinot Noir, Chardonnay grapes there. We have here at the shop the Gruet Blanc de Noir. It's made from 100% Pinot Noir. As I said before, champagne's very cold, and so and that's a general statement, but you get a lot of different things happening in that climate. When the wine is being made, a lot of different things have to come into your mind as a winemaker, but in New Mexico, it's basically the complete opposite. They found the highest elevation in New Mexico, and they planted vineyards on that high elevation. Very cold, cool nights, warm days, of course, very hot days, but at that altitude, not so much. So you have this really kind of unique ripening process in New Mexico. They make great wine. We have wines here in America that are bubbly, that just have a more round fruit flavor. They're not as dry and yeasty. They can be, but generally they're gonna be a little bit rounder, a little more approachable, and they're gonna be less expensive. By no means are they better or worse than champagne. Nothing's better or worse than anything. As long as the wine is good and enjoyable, that's what's important. But I just want to give you guys options. If you want to buy a champagne and you're looking at those prices and you're like, that's expensive, then try something else. Try those Italian bubblies I talked about last time, or try an American sparkler. But again, as always, it's up to the wine merchant to know the wines they have in their inventory to give you the right one that you're looking for. Wine to the people, American sparklers, let's do this. And next time we'll talk about cava. What's cava? You'll see.